Alright, September the 20th, 3:49. We're going to do this video here. This gentleman's asked a question on one of my channels concerning shooting squirrels and incline shots. Alright, so I've got this Element Ballistic app open, and that's what I'm going to use here, okay? Alright. So what I've done, he was using a 22 rifle probably in all likelihood, so I've dialed in a 22 long rifle. Muzzle velocity 1,080 feet a second. The scope center 1.5 inches above the bore. That's probably with a 40 millimeter objective. A lot of people are probably running close to that. He was using a scope. Alright. You're hunting squirrels with leaves on. But you could get a shot closer with leaves off. So what is the correct yardage with leaves on to zero your rifle exactly? Alright, well in this example here, we'll change this, okay? I'm at 50 yards shooting in the horizontal. 50 yards zero. Okay, no incline angle whatsoever. So I'm on at 50, and I'm on at 18. Alright, with no incline angle, and everything between 18 and 50, I'm a little high. With the 29 through 40, I'm 0.4 inches high. Now remember, there is shooter error that will happen, okay? So you don't want to get too cute when you're trying to figure this out. You need to allow for maybe a little shooter error. So you're holding on the center of a squirrel's head. In the horizontal, you can see you're going to be 0.4 inches high where the crosshair is, assuming a perfect shot. Now, you need a rifle that shoots decent. You know, you can't have one that's shooting like a damn shotgun, okay? Now, at 50 yards zero, notice back here at the 5 yard. Remember, 5 yards is 15 feet. 6 yards is 18 feet. Look at there. I'm down 0.9. I'm going to hit 0.9 inches low. Well, that could be the jawbone shot off a squirrel to get away from you, huh? So if you shot a squirrel on the ground with this setup, you may miss entirely, or you may shoot the jawbone off of him with a 22 long rifle and he runs in the hole or gets away from you. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add some incline angle here. 30 degrees. Now that's what's in there. Now remember, your gun is still out in the field and you have that 50 yard zero. But the 50 yard zero now has been extended all the way to 61 yards. So a 61 yard shot at 30 degrees, you can use your 50 yard zero and you should ideally cut the crosshairs with the shot. Now we're going to back up, keeping the 30 degree shooting angle. All right. Now we're going to go back down here to this 5 and 6 yards. Notice you're still down 0.9, 0.8. So it ain't helped you that much, has it? So a squirrel over your head with this setup on this rifle, at 30 degrees, you're still going to shoot low if he's 15, 18 feet from you. Now we're going to change the shooting angle to 65 degrees. Notice 5 and 6 yards, you're still low. Now, when we move out here to longer distance, notice what happens in the 22 to 35 yard range. Notice what happens. The gun is shooting, those are in inches. Okay, and it's telling you over here in the next column, you've got to hold down that much MOA to correct for that many inches over where your crosshair center lies. Now, some people need to remember now, hunting on level ground, take a big tall hickory or a big tall poplar or a big tall oak. Well, you know, those trees generally only grow so tall, and a squirrel could be 3/4 or all the way in the top of one of them. But that would be on level ground. So if the tree trunk where it meets the ground is above your feet, meaning you're below the tree, this would increase the distance, wouldn't it? The angle could be sharp and the distance could be sharp. So at 65 degrees, notice what happens here. So now at 18 feet, you're 0.9. But notice there, now you're at 12 yards, 36 feet. Now you're 0.3. So in that situation there, this 50-yard zero is not too bad. Okay? But if you're on level ground where your feet and the tree trunk's bottom is in the same location, a tree where a squirrel is in 40 feet shooting a 65-degree angle, you could shoot lower. Okay? So we're going to change this shooting angle back to 0. All right? And we're going to change the 0 to 35 yards. Most squirrel guns with 22 rifle with about a 1.5 inch scope center, that's probably a fairly good 0. All right? So what happens now? Shooting in the horizontal at 15 and 18 feet, we are still low. Now remember, you can use the squirrel head as a reference point with your crosshair. So on that shot right there, putting the crosshair flush with the top of the squirrel's head might yield a kill shot, correct? Now we're still at 0 degrees with a 35-yard 0. So here we're out here. Okay, now we're in pretty good shape there for trajectory for bullet impact till we get to about 43 yards. A lot of leaves off applications. For squirrels in the horizontal, that'll probably suffice. Now, if you get out here to 52, 53, 50 yards, again, that would be the top of the squirrel's head you would be aiming at, flush with the top of the crosshair. Those sharpshooters done this before. Now remember, that would be a squirrel where the angle is less. You know, you're not going to see too many trees around here that are 150 feet tall. So a 50-yard sighting on a squirrel would probably mean what? Would probably mean the angle is not that great. Hence, bullet drop is going to be more because the old gravity's acting on it. Okay, so now we're still at the 35-yard 0. We're going to increase the shooting angle here to 30 degrees. Okay, so now we're back here at the 5 and 6 yard mark. You see we're still low. 1 inch. And there's the MOA telling you to hold the gun up. Of course, if you're running a second focal plane scope, that probably ain't doing you much counts. Again, you can use the squirrel's head, meaning from top to bottom, or from center to the edge of the head, you could use that as a reference. Crosshairs flush on top of that squirrel's head will probably kill that squirrel. May not be exactly in the center, but probably close enough. You'll probably bag him. Okay, we're still at 30 degrees. Now we're coming out here into the 40-yard range. Look at there, only up 0.2 with 30 degrees. So about any squirrel that's got any kind of incline angle to it, you're pretty good shape out to about 50 yards. Okay? No problemo. Hold on the head, boom. Hold on to behind that shoulder, boom. Okay? And that's why that 35-yard zero with leaves on is such a good setting. Just remember, if you see a squirrel on the ground, if you put your laser on him and you're good at judging distance and you're like, oh shit, he's 50 yards, put the crosshair flush with the top of his head and try him. Okay? Now, always remember this, variable power scopes. You're in pretty good shape if you'll keep the power on that scope between 4 and 6 power. Parallax is probably not going to be a factor to amount of squat. You start dialing one of these 4x12 scopes, 3x9s, 4x16s, you start dialing them up into 10 and 9 and 12 power, parallax becomes a factor. And parallax error, when you make a shot, can be added to error already created by incline angle on the shot. So you may have them both wrong. You've got parallax error and you've not compensated for distance and how the incline angle plays into that with the scope height above your barrel. Hence you miss. But at 4 power, parallax didn't cause a person to miss a squirrel. Squirrels in over your head. That is a tough shooting position. Okay? Closer squirrels, it's easy to shoot under a squirrel with a scoped rifle. It's easy to graze the squirrel, and you may have touched him and don't even know it, and he runs off, and the only thing you know is he didn't fall out and you didn't hear impact. So you have to guard against that using a scoped rifle. Okay? And naturally, the higher the scope is above the barrel, adds more error to be compensated for at closer ranges. Now, here's what the sharpshooter recommends. If you can get a rangefinder like this, and I believe there's some other companies make them where they're actually, you put your data in, I can hit that tree way up there with this thing, all right? Matter of fact, I'm going to do it right now. Top of that tree. 65 yards. Okay? It's telling me to hold up 0.74 MOA off of a 50-yard zero. So if I had my in-shoots rifle out here and it's got a 1.5 scope height, I could probably bust a squirrel's head up there with that rifle off an old trigger stick or something. Okay? So you can get you one of these, get you an app that goes with it, upload your laser rangefinder, and it will teach you. So you can shine it on a stakeout squirrel mission up in the top of a tree and say, oh, I'm zeroed at 50 yards. Where do I need to dial this scope to shoot up high in that tree? Now remember, that tree right there is one of those trees where the base of it is above my feet. Hence, we get a sharp angle, okay? 32 degrees is what's flashing in this rangefinder. So here's what sharpshooter recommends. Now, this applies to open-sighted rifles too. And you young cats and guys and gals out there that's got them good eyes and still shoot them open sights, go Find you a safe place to shoot where you can shoot up. A sycamore tree that's got them little brown balls on it's excellent. A tree with big leaves on it like a poplar. A sycamore. There's some other trees out there with big leaves on them. So you get your gun zero, and you're satisfied with how you get it zeroed in the horizontal. Take you something you can take rest on and go get beneath a sycamore tree. Get out away from it so far. Get out away from it about 25 yards and shoot up through it at different angles and watch your points of impact. And you'll learn there by trial and error and shoot those balls off that sycamore tree. If you're busting them and they explode, that means you're getting pretty close to the middle of them. If you're grazing them, that's telling you something. If you cut the stem off and you don't bust it, oh, you probably shot high. Lots of squirrels are missed. Short-range squirrels are missed in the woods with scoped rifles. I guarantee you they're missed in the woods with scoped air rifles. And they're not necessarily missed totally. It's just if they're hit so low, the squirrel can evade because he's not had that brain shot out, okay? He's had that jawbone grazer shot. Or he's had his front shoulder shot real low on, or his foot shot off aiming at the shoulder area, or grazed his belly. You understand? Being real close. Remember, gravity has to have time to work. So the real close shots, we'll just say 20 feet and closer, okay? Gravity doesn't have much time to act on that shot. So that bullet starts out below the line of sight, okay? And it has to go so far to get to the line of sight. So a 15-foot, 18-foot squirrel above you on a 1.5 center of the scope to the center of the barrel, you're going to be about 9 inches, 9/10 to 1 inch low, which generally equates to you might try aiming at the very tip top of that squirrel's head or the very top of his shoulders. Okay? You can practice this. It's hard really to have a place where you have a target scenario that would be so steep. You know, you have to let the tree do the work for you with the leaves on it or those sycamore berries or a hickory nut in a hickory tree or even a walnut. If you can't hit a walnut from in an elevated position, sitting 25 yards away from a walnut tree, and you can't put that gun up through there at 35, 40 degrees, and you can't hit that walnut, you don't need to be aiming at no damn squirrel heads, okay? Because you're going to be shit out of luck. Okay, so that's going to tell you. And then if you can't hit it, you need to work on why you're not hitting it. And then when you can hit them, then you're ready to join the ranks of being a more successful squirrel hunter with a rifle aiming at them squirrel heads. Okay? Now, I ain't talked about wind in this equation. Wind is not really a factor on shooting squirrels above your head at 15 to 18 feet, okay, with any rifle for all practical purposes, even an air gun. Unless it's coming a hurricane. 5, 10 mile an hour wind is not going to keep you from bagging a squirrel at that close a range being over your head. Now just remember, we'll go back and we'll look at this real quick here. Okay, I'm still on my 35-yard zero. We're going to crank the shooting angle up here to 65 degrees. So notice, if I was shooting a squirrel at 54 feet up in the air, 18 yards, I'm cutting the crosshairs. Notice what happens. Uh-oh. If that squirrel is 126 feet, 43 yards, I'm 1.5 inches high. So if I hold on his head, I should never touch that squirrel. If that squirrel is in a horizontal position, got his head exposed, you're never going to touch him unless you make a bad shot or you get a deflection and get lucky. So just remember, trees that are below your feet and above your feet, you could have long distance viewability to those trees. And you may shoot a shot 43 yards at 65 degree slope with a 35-yard zero. And you'll never touch him unless you know better, okay? And even in that situation right there, holding at the edge of the squirrel's head is probably a miss, okay? A full inch and a half. You see it there in that camera, and it's telling you over there what the MOA is. Well, don't worry about that. Worry about that number right there. The inch. Worry about the inches. Drop in inches. Of course, there it's telling you that you're above line of sight. 1.4 inches at 42 yards. That is going to conclude the video. Maybe this helps some people out.